Hello, my name is Aric Rusk. I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of KenMar Corporation. I've worked in family business since my training in the early days of Ford Motor Company. I joined KenMar in 1980. I became president in approximately 1990. So I've been running the corporation for quite a long time. Our main areas of business are historically what we would call the manufacturer's representative agency. And about 25 years ago, we developed a software business. We provide software mainly to non-automotive companies, and we develop technology for mainly the automotive sector, but also other industries. A company called Autotech, which is housed in our office here. But I was raised in Leadington, Michigan. So I'm a northern Michigan country boy, really. I grew up next to a dairy farm. So, you learn at a very young age when you live in the country that there's hard work involved in life, and working and living next to a farm was a lot of hard work. And I think I developed most of my upper body strength from helping the dairy farm next door bale straw and bale hay for his cattle. So I grew up in the fields and in the country, and for my fun I would grab a 22 or a BB gun or a shotgun, depending on how old I was, and head off into the woods, and I'd stay out there all day long and come back in time for dinner. And in the old days, most of the families just opened up the door and let their kids go out, and they knew what time they had to be home for dinner, and if you didn't get home, you didn't have dinner. So, I'm certainly a part of the Clean Plate Club too. So my parents always taught me, you won't get up from this table to eat everything on your plate. And I don't care if it's liver or whatever you don't like, you're going to eat it. And I always did. So that's why I've always struggled with my weight, because I'm the Clean Plate Club forever. You can't put something on my plate that doesn't end up being eaten in my tummy. So that's where I was raised. That's where my heritage developed, and it was a heritage of integrity and hard work, and trying to be the best you could be, and that's, I think, a heritage that your parents instill in you when you're at a very young age. And my reverence, I call it, came from the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout all through my tenure in northern Michigan, and stopped at about the Life Scout. And my one regret in life is I didn't find a way to continue and get the Eagle Scout, because I meet young Eagle Scouts today, and I'm very proud to meet those people, and these are very fine citizens, and you learn that in the Boy Scouts. It's a great background to grow up with as a young man, and I'm assuming as a young woman in the Girl Scouts, although today's it's being muddied a little bit, unfortunately. But it's a great organization to instill not only reverence, but the interest in civic things and in society and neighborhoods and to the community around you. So that's a big part of my life, and that was probably one of the better things that I did to kind of launch me into more adult parts of life. And at a young age, probably 15 or so, we moved out of the country. My father was a pharmacist. We moved to Lansing, and I just did my senior year in high school in Lansing, and there I ended up with a scholarship in journalism. So I enrolled in Michigan State University, and at the time I was number 12 on the draft lottery, so I knew I was going to be drafted. And I didn't want to go in the Army, because I also played football in high school, and I was kind of I don't know if you'd call it a tough guy, but I was in better shape than the average guy because I played sports. So I decided to join the Marine Corps, and I went in the Marine Corps, and of course ended up in Vietnam. And although I was based mainly in Okinawa, and I would make what they call temporary advance missions to Vietnam, I think 3 or 4 times. So I spent time in the war, and I saw the ugly part of that, and came back in the 1960s, late 1960s, into the what I called the flower power days. And that was a lot of fun. I would love, if there's any part of my life I'd like to live over, it's that part. It was a lot of fun. That's where it all started, and I ended up going to work for Ford Motor Company and learning the automotive business, and then from that experience joining the family business. The business was actually owned and started by my wife's family, Ken and Mary Elliott. That's where KenMar name came from, Ken and Mary. They had a typical, maybe not so typical, but 8 children Catholic family. It was my wife and 6 sisters and a brother, so eight children. So a very, very interesting family to join, and in any family business, you have to be prepared to put a lot of time and hours in, and a lot of travel. I've spent, my whole life really traveling the world, so I can't complain. A lot of that was wonderful, a lot of great experiences, but you soon get tired of living out of a suitcase, and so I pass most of those responsibilities on to others, and I travel a lot less now. I'm more in the office steering the ship, and the heavy lifting now, or the younger folks are stepping in and doing it quite well. So, that's the background, and we've been in Southfield since this building, I believe, was built in 1964. And my father-in-law was down in the GM building downtown, and it became difficult to stay downtown for a number of reasons. So he moved out to the suburbs, and Southfield was the place. I think at that point, or that time, they had more phones than any city in America, as it's so many businesses. But at the end of the day, the streets kind of get rolled up and people leave. And I think Southfield now has developed into more of a community that invites people to stay a little longer. And that's why we need a robust restaurant industry here, because there's so many restaurants, so many businesses that need restaurants. And it got slowed up, I think, by government intervention, because the government decided to not allow businesses to deduct 100% of their entertainment expenses. And that directly impacted, that was back in the Clinton administration.
That was in the 80s.
He did a couple of things that were bad for business. One was a luxury tax, and overnight put 6,000 or 8,000 people out of business that built yachts, because they decided that it wasn't good for people to be able to afford yachts. So, but they forgot about all the people that worked building the yachts. So in about a month they reversed that, but they never reversed the business expense that every business counted on to help reduce the costs of creating business for your particular business. So today they allow you a small reduction, but it's affected the restaurant industry. And so the restaurants have had less business as a result of government policy, and they have moved where it's only lucrative to have a restaurant rather than, it's okay to place to have a restaurant. That's why most of our restaurants have left. It's really policy that we clearly should have known that when you pass this policy, you're going to hurt restaurants. And the restaurants struggle and come and go a lot more quickly now, because there's not as many businesses extending the workday by inviting clients to dinner. because now you can't deduct it.
And there's like that cluster of restaurants on Evergreen, right? But that's all fast food and mid-grade. You're talking like top line.
Top line. When you're entertaining customers, you want to encourage them to do business. So you want to, everything you do, you want them to feel good about doing it. Yeah. And so now it just means that businesses here in Southfield have to drive out of Southfield to. In fact, last week we had customers in every day of the week. We were downtown almost every day, which for us that meant we lost working hours somewhat because of travel. So if there's one thing I would encourage the district to do, it would be to encourage more restaurateurs to come in this area, and then we have to figure out how to get businesses to use those to the extent that they can afford to stay. Southfield, the same reason we moved to Southfield in, I think, 1964 is still a good reason to remain here. And the biggest issue for me is logistics. No gridlock. And most everywhere you go north, there's gridlock, north and west. And in business, time is money. And if you're spending, half an hour or more a day sitting in your car in traffic. So the family business is the center of everything. And in Southfield, all the same reasons that we came here are still here. There's no gridlock. There's freedom of movement and of course the access to all the highways, so you can get pretty much anywhere in town in 20-30 minutes, where I might say that's a long time, but for most people 20-30 minutes is nothing. So they don't even think about the time. So it's a great position from a business perspective. We can go everywhere. Trying to pick a career, someone suggested I should look at the automotive industry, and I thought, that's not for me. That's too old school, old technology, old everything old. But I ended up interviewing with Ford Motor Company, and based on that advice to look at it, and I got into the automotive sector, and I realized that my impression of the automotive industry was completely wrong. It is a very high-tech industry, and you better have something on the ball even to comprehend the technologies, because it's a collection of multiple technologies. So I think that advice to join an old industry when everyone else was kind of running from the industry, in terms of advice, was good advice. But it's very important that for the city of Southfield, that we utilize that opportunity, because how many pieces of real estate do we have like this? I think there was one question that somebody thought that Northland was a thing of the past, and they wanted to get rid of the name. And I said, well, why would you want to get rid of the name? And Northland was probably one of the biggest things that ever happened to the area. It was, I think, the first mall of America, as I recall. And why would you want to get rid of that heritage? Keep the heritage and build on it. And I think to some extent we haven't really gotten over the edge. Maybe the first big step was getting Costco to come in here. That's definitely going to be a draw. I've been over there several times myself. All my employees, we've moved a lot of our office supply purchases over to Costco. So we just go over and get it ourselves, rather than the way we've been doing it in the past, basically on catalogs. We can help companies come and reduce costs and still have the space, the luxury of space. And that's a big luxury these days, because everything's getting smaller and smaller. And I think this is very competitive here. And we have most of the services. If we improve the restaurant side of things so that we don't have to leave Southfield to entertain, that would be helpful. But in terms of the logistics and the cost structure, this has to be an area that small business looks at, and even some big business, because there's some large plots of land that you can't find anywhere else. And when employees do employment, they want to be able to come and park easily, and they don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time walking. When you go downtown Detroit, it's a problem. Just parking alone you can't afford, and your employees can't afford. So here, employees get all the services basically for free. Where downtown Detroit, you'd have to spend, I don't know what it is today, you'd have to spend probably $200-300 a month just to park your car. Detroit it's got a lot of advantages too, but from a cost perspective, I think Southfield offers a lot more, and you've got the freedom of movement here that you don't have in a lot of urban areas. And that's one of the things that I think everyone likes here. Plus, you come, if you're going to visit a business, you can come and park your car and you're in the office in 5 minutes, and not a lot of effort. So this is all the same reasons that the city developed in the 60s, is all the same reasons are here now. And I wouldn't move from here, and I've looked at it several times, but it doesn't make sense for our business to leave here, because we move around the area and we're centrally located here. We're within 20 minutes of every place we want to go in a good traffic situation. And there's some great buildings here too. Southfield has got as good a chance as anyone because we've got the basic stuff here to satisfy everyone. And in fact, the person I hired to do our design work in the office was a resident in Southfield, and he actually bought a condominium in I think it's a Sapphire, and he went in there and looked at it, and where do you find 9-foot ceilings, and just the type of architecture that you can't afford to build today. But he loved living there, and he loved living in Southfield, and when he was working in our office, he was literally 2 minutes away, and he was there picking out paints and wallpapers and rugs and what have you. And now he's retired and he moved to Florida, but he was also able to sell his condo and make money on it. So there still are opportunities like that. Southfield's a good place to start.